Alright. So I know we have lesser number of kids in the class, primarily because of spring break. Some kids have gone for travel, some kids are enjoying, are still having the hangover of Holi. So that's the reason. So I see Thanu is busy with something. He's smiling, looks like he's talking to somebody.
I'm smiling because Geeta, she's wearing some.
So yeah, so Gitesh, don't do that because that gets everybody distracted. Okay, so more we play with emojis, more we do things which is outside the syllabus, it might create distraction. Okay. What happened to Hiranya? Okay, she will join. So Gitesh, take out your hat, take out your headphone also. Okay. All right. So before we start, a quick question to everybody. We have been trying to learn a concept called coordinate geometry, where we talked about the distance formula and the section formula. Gitesh, I'll not say it again. Please take it out. Okay. So, hey Lokshita. So we talked about the most important formulas of coordinate geometry, which is called distance formula and the section formula. And we also proved that in the previous classes. But I'm not sure if everybody in this class is clear about those formulas and what is the purpose of those formulas. So if anybody wants to take a punt at it and tell me what those formulas are at a high level, why do we need those formulas? That will give me some level of confidence. And it has to be literally a story, okay? I'm not a very educated person. You have to treat me like a third grader and you are trying to explain this to me. Anybody? Otherwise the third grader will end up explaining this to you back. Nihan, Arihan, Lakshita, Thanu, Dikshita, anybody? Gitesh, anybody? Hiranya, were you not in the class yesterday? I think you were not there, right?
No, I wasn't there yesterday.
Okay. So let me do one thing. I know these are little tricky concepts, so it might be helpful if we just brush up on those concepts without me trying to prove the formulas. Otherwise, I'll waste the whole class explaining that to you guys. We have already proved that formula in the previous classes, so whoever kind of gets stuck can go back to the video of that class and should be able to find it out. But conceptually, let's try understanding it. Okay. So there are two things. This chapter or this topic is predominantly called coordinate geometry. Coordinate geometry. So it has two words in it, right? Coordinates. Coordinate is one word and geometry is another word. We all know geometry, right? We all have learned about the coordinate planes also. When you're talking about coordinates, you're talking about a coordinate plane where you have an x-axis, you have a y-axis, and you identify the points. Yeah? You use the x and y-axis to locate a point where you have four quadrants. This is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, this is quadrant 4. Yep. Hello, Sarvita. Hello, Sarvita. Okay. Sanvita joined and then who else? Okay, I think only Sanvita. Alright. So here, coming back to this one, we are talking about what we have learned in the last 2-3 classes and why it is kind of getting confusing, right? So we are trying to decode that. Yeah? Everybody with me so far? Decoding is fun. You guys are learning coding. I'm helping you guys do decode. Let's see that. So this topic is predominantly called coordinate geometry, which has essentially two words, coordinate and geometry. When we talk about coordinate, what do we mean? We talk about a plane, basically, which is revolving around x and y axis. And x and y axis, as we all know, these are nothing but number lines perpendicular to each other. And in this coordinate plane, you locate different points referring to the x and y value. Those are called x and y coordinates. Correct? So far, it's okay, right? Sarvita, are you clear with her?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, this is coordinate. When you talk about geometry, this is the most difficult subject, trust me, which you guys play with. Yeah? You talk about line segment, line, rays, angles, triangles, rectangles, quadrilaterals, hexagon, octagon, trapezoid, and then 3D shapes like cylinder, cube, cuboid. All that we learned as part of geometry, correct? Now when you talk about coordinate geometry, what you're doing is you're bringing things together. Meaning, when you visualize your geometry in a coordinate plane, that's what is called coordinate geometry. So when you visualize your geometry shapes in a coordinate plane. Now this is a coordinate plane. You put 2 points, join them. This became a line segment. Line segment is part of geometry. You are visualizing the line segment in a coordinate plane. That's why it's called coordinate geometry. Is that clear? Yeah? Now, you add one more point. Join these 3 points now. This became a triangle. A triangle is nothing but part of geometry, right? You are visualizing a triangle in a coordinate plane. That's why it's called coordinate geometry. Is that okay? Yeah? So far? Okay. Now, let's move on. So, as part of this, there are 2 concepts or 2 formulas that we need to learn, and that will be the building block for coordinate geometry. So, let's say if you have to find out area of a rectangle in a coordinate plane. Area of a rectangle will remain area of a rectangle, which is nothing but length. This is length. This is width, and this is length. If you are able to find out the length and width, you'll multiply it, you'll find the area, correct? If you're talking about a triangle, if you have to find out the area or perimeter, right? What do you need to know? The base and the height. And the area of the triangle will be half into base into height. And you can find it out. Yeah? If you have to find out the perimeter, you would need to find out this length, and this length, add them together, that becomes a perimeter. Yeah? So your geometry concepts are not going anywhere. Your coordinates understanding is not going anywhere. You are just marrying them together. Yeah? So now, by looking at this one, what did we realize that if you are able to find out the length or the distance between 2 points, that becomes one very important thing for us to use for finding out other things about the geometry part of it. So now, if you visualize a triangle in the coordinate plane, a triangle is made by 3 points. These 3 points, if you join these 3 points, you make a triangle. So, if you can find out the distance between these points, that essentially gives you the length of the sides. And based on the other properties of the triangle, you can find out rest of the things, correct? Yeah? So that's why one of the most important formula that we learned as part of coordinate geometry is called distance formula, which helps you find out the distance between 2 points in a coordinate plane. Okay? Yeah? So, if you just have 2 points, if you find out the distance between the 2 points, that gives you the side or the dimension of the shape that you're talking about, and then you can do rest of the thing by itself. So let's see. So what is distance formula? Now, what does the distance formula say? Distance is always between 2 points, right? What is the distance between me and Gitesh? Gitesh's home has an address, my home has an address. The distance between my home address and Gitesh's home address is the distance between my and Gitesh's place, right? So let's say this is my home address. My home has an address. B has some address which has x and y value. If you visualize this in a coordinate plane. This is Gitesh's house. His house also has an address. Let's say this is x1, y1 and this is x2, y2. This is x and y coordinate of Gitesh's house. This is my house. The distance between my house and Gitesh's house is this length. And how do you find it out? This length is nothing but B and G. If this is my house, this is Gitesh's house, length of BG is nothing but the difference of the x coordinate square plus difference of the y coordinate square root. That is what is called distance formula. Now you will say that, oh no, you are becoming a bad teacher, you are asking me to memorize this formula. I am asking you guys to memorize this formula now because we have understood and explained, I have explained how this formula came into existence in the previous classes. So whoever has missed the class, I would request you guys to go through that video and find out how this formula was derived so that we don't end up repeating the same thing for the benefit of the class. Yeah. And if you still get confused, you know whose collar you are going to hold. Yeah. You will hold me with this. Say, okay, now you have to explain one more time. Yeah. But yeah, my request would be go through that video of the class one more time. If you have not been in the class, it will be last class and the previous class. So this Saturday class and the class on previous weeks, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, not Sunday. Sunday we did not have a class. So go to the video of these two classes and you'll be able to find out how this formula was derived. Is that part okay so far? But for the sake of simplicity, just to memorize it, that this distance is nothing but the difference of x1 minus x2. See, I am getting tempted to tell you again. So this distance is x2, this distance is x1. I am saying this distance, difference of this distance. So x2 minus x1 is this distance. Here to here, this distance is y2 and here to here it is y1. So this one is nothing but y2 minus y1. So I am saying square of this plus square of this will be equal to square of this. This is what you have learned in Pythagorean theorem also. So even if I told you that I have explained this formula to you guys in previous classes, even if you don't see the video of that class, at least distance formula you can find out by yourself very quickly. This is very visually relatable. Yeah? Myra, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So you can sit down, it's okay. Once daddy mommy are here, then you can go. So this is one formula. Second formula is called the section formula. Meaning when you find out a section of a line. Now look at this. So we saw that, okay, if I have 2 points A and B, A and B, this one has coordinates x1, y1. This has x2, y2 as coordinates. If I join these two, this becomes a line AB. The section formula says you can find out a point C. Let's say the coordinates are x and y. We don't know what is x and y value. You can find a point C which will divide this line in certain ratio. Let's say M1 is to M2. Okay. Now this M1 could be 2 and this M2 could be 4. So 1 is to 2. Or M1 could be 1, this could be 5. So 1 is to 5. This just tells you how you can split this line. Any point on the line can split that in certain ratio. That is what is called section formula. Meaning you are finding a section of a line by identifying a point. And this formula says if you find a point C on this line, which divides this line into ratio m1 is to m2, then the x coordinate value would be m2 into x1 plus m1 into x2 divided by m1 plus m2, and y coordinate value for C would be equal to m2 y1 plus m1 y2 divided by m1 plus m2. Now you guys will think that okay, I'm flexing my knowledge of the formula. I'm not. This is something that I have done couple of times to prove it for you guys. Since I did it couple of times, so I have memorized it now. So that's why I'm showing it to you guys. Yeah, Gitesh.
Why do you have to divide by M1 and M2?
Say that again.
Why do you have to divide M1 and M2?
This question is coming because you have not watched the video of the previous class. Go through that. That will tell you. That will explain it to you. And again, whenever I'm uploading video for you guys or whenever I'm explaining things to you guys, just watching the video blindly would not be beneficial. You have to watch what I'm doing, pause me, then do the same thing by yourself, wrap your head around that, and then move on. Watch some more part of the video, understand this, put it on a piece of paper, pause my video, do it, then move on. Yeah, Dikshita.
Like, what did you write like after C?
After C, this is x and y coordinate of the point. So in a coordinate plane, any point that you figure out that has to have x and y coordinates, right? That's the way you identify a point, correct?
No, but like after X and Y.
After x and y, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, this C is the point that is dividing this line into two ratio. M1 is to M2 ratio. This is M2. This second part. This is the ratio. This is M1. This is M2. That's all.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is you guys go through the last video, pause the video, and see what I'm doing. You also repeat the same thing. Okay. There is no better or easier method to understand a problem unless understand a formula unless you do it yourself. Okay, I mean what I'm showing you guys the path. You have to use that understanding and try doing it. Kind of try repeating it for yourself. Okay, that way. But yeah, Dikshita.
What are we like finding using the section formula?
So now let me give you guys. So I have posted few questions that we are going to solve. Okay, today. That will probably help you understand it a little better. But let's understand this. If I say I have a line like this, okay? Let's say this is the height of one building, okay? And this is the roof. This is the top of one building. This is the top of second building. This is building 1. This is building 2. Okay? Okay? So this is roof of the second building, this is the roof of first building. Now, somebody says, I want to host a flag which is connecting the roof of the two buildings. So assume there is a string, okay? This is connecting the roof of this building and this building. I want to host a flag somewhere such that this flag is exactly half the distance between the two buildings. Or I want to host a flag such that it is closer to this building such that this by this is 2 by 3. This is 2 times closer to this building. Okay? So this is just an example. This just tells you, okay, if you have 2 points, if you want to identify a point such that it is dividing this whole distance into certain ratio. Now, in practical life, you can relate with different scenarios. You can cook up your own story, like I cooked up one for myself, right? Nobody hosts a flag between 2 buildings, right? But I made up a story, right? Just to give you guys that view. Or I can say that, okay, this is the height of a building. Okay, this is the height of a building, and this is a person standing here. The sun rays coming from this place to this place. Okay, alright. Go slow. Sun rays coming from here, touching the roof, and then hitting that person's head. What will be the height of this tree, which also falls in the way of the sun rays, which is 40 meters away from this building? Yeah? I'm just giving an example, okay? If the tree is taller, the sun ray will get obstructed and will not reach this child. It has to be just right, just this tall, so that it comes and without disrupting, it goes through. So we'll see, when we solve some problems, you'll be able to relate it. In essence, this section formula only helps you relate. How do you split a line into a certain ratio? Okay. How do you find a point which will split a given line segment in a certain ratio? That's all. Now, which way we relate it? What kind of scenario we'll talk about? What kind of story your teacher will cook? What kind of story your SAT exam will cook? We'll see all that. But my underlying calculation would not change. Yeah? Who all are getting stressed out right now? I believe some of you are, because this might look little complicated to begin with, which is not the case otherwise. Yanihan, are you stressed out or you're not stressed out?
In the mid.
I'm sorry? A little bit?
Middle.
In the middle? Okay. So, okay. So let's do one thing. Let's try solving few problems, and that will give you guys some clue with respect to what this formula is meant for. Okay, and then you will see a practical problem, and these questions are taken from some notebooks, so that way these are not my cooked up questions. Okay, these are some relevant questions. See, Deekshita is always smiling at me. She has no trust in the teacher now. She knows this guy is very good at cooking up stories. Okay. Now that was a friendly leg pulling. Let's see. So these are two formulas that we have. You don't have to memorize both the formulas. Always visualize it this way, that these are 2 points, A and B. This coordinate is x1, y1 because this is the first point. This coordinate is x2, y2 because this is the second point. We have just given a name to it. So if you join these two lines, these 2 points, the point C, let's say its coordinates are x and y, which divide this line into this ratio m1 is to m2, then the value of x will be nothing but first ratio multiplied by second coordinate, second ratio multiplied by first coordinate. So you are doing crisscross. Okay, that's what we have to visualize. This multiplied by this multiplied by this. That would make it easy to remember. So m1, I will go to first one, I'll go to second one. So m1 x2 plus m2, I'll go to first one. So this is just the reverse. First one goes with the second one goes with the first one. By m1 plus m2. And how did we prove it? You can watch the video and you can recall that. Now, for same thing, if x is this, y also follows the same pattern, just with the relation in relation to y. So m1 y2 plus m2 y1 by m1 plus m2. I'll come to you this time, okay? Yeah, tell me.
Isn't it supposed to be M2?
Which one?
Like for X and Y?
S?
Isn't it supposed to be X M2?
No, it's just the reverse. So m1 x2 plus m2 x1 by m1 plus m2. It's always the reverse. So this value multiplied by this value multiplied by this. That's how it goes. That's why I was saying crisscross. And how it is proved is, again, you'll have to look at the video. Yes, brother, tell me.
You wrote the formula like the bottom wrong. Like not the bottom one.
M1 plus M2.
No,
M1
not
plus
that
M2.
one. Like in the right corner. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, M1 plus M2. Yeah.
No, Y and X, like M1. It's supposed to be M1, right?
No, so it's M2 Y1 plus M1 Y2. Whether you write this one first or this one first, you have to just make sure that M1 goes with Y2 and M2 goes with Y1. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyways, let's not worry about that. Let's come to a problem. Let's try solving a problem, and then that will probably give us a little bit more comfort with respect to what this problem does. So I'm reading a question for you guys. It says, find the coordinates of the point of a trisection. It implies the points dividing in three equal parts of the line segment joining the point A and B. So when I read that, nobody got it, right? Including myself. So I'm reading it one more time. That's what aligns with this. Read. Okay. Find the coordinates of the point of a trisection. In bracket it is explaining what is trisection, because the person who has written the question knows that the teacher is not very intelligent, right? So he has written it in the bracket. Saying points dividing in three equal parts. When you say trisection, meaning points dividing in three equal parts of the line segment joining the points A and B. So it says, find the coordinates of the points of trisection of the line segment joining the points A and B. So let's say point A is this, point B is this. It says, find the coordinates of the points of trisection. So if you join A and B, it says trisection means you are making it into three equal parts. Find the coordinates. So let's say this is C and this is D. We have to find out the coordinates of C and D. Okay, that's what it says. And what is the coordinates of A? A is 2, -2, and this is -7, 4. Okay. So I have not drawn the coordinate plane, but it says that you have 2 points A and B. The coordinates are this and this. So find out the coordinates of the trisection, meaning the 2 points that splits this into 3 equal parts. How will you find it out? Is life very difficult? Yes, Nihan.
Since it's equal, so I think like you have to since it's equal and it's 3 equal parts, I think you have to find the total distance between A and B and divide it by 3. And you'll find the distance for each of the trisection.
But we don't have to find out the distance. We have been asked to find out the coordinates. So we have to find out x and y coordinate for this guy. Let's say if it is x1, y1, we have to find out the value of x1, y1. This is x, let's say this is x2, y2. We have to find out the values of x2 and y2. That is where this will come to our rescue. Okay. Now let's look at this. Let's try solving this problem. First of all, has everybody understood the problem? This problem says you have 2 points A and B with the coordinates 2, 2 and -7, 4. It's saying find out the coordinates of the trisection, meaning the 2 points that splits this into 3 equal parts. Yep, that's the question. We should not have any doubt with respect to what the question is. Because if you have doubt about the question, no matter how intelligent we are, the answer is guaranteed to be wrong. That is my guarantee. Yeah. So let's make sure that we understand the question right. So we got the question that okay, we have 2 points with the given coordinates. and we have to find out the coordinates x and y value for these 2 points, which is splitting this line into 3 equal parts. Now, let's say this part is 1, this part is 1, this part is 1. Correct? That is how they are equal. Do you guys agree? If I look at, let's say, we have to find out the coordinates of these points, right? So let's look at one point at a time. So if I ignore this part, then what do I see? If I look at this part, this is 1 plus 1, 2, and this is 1. So this is in the ratio. If I look at this point C, this is dividing this line into ratio 2 is to 1. So let's see, if I call this as M1 is 1, M2 is 2. Correct? Yes or no? So basically we have to find out the coordinates of this point and this point. I am saying let's focus on this one. If this part is 1, this is 1, this is 1. So these are 3 parts making it one line. Now if I look at this point and focus on this one. So here it's 2 parts is to 1 part. This is the ratio between these 2 parts, right? 2 is to 1, that's the ratio, correct? Lokshita, are you with me? Yeah? Sanvita? Okay. Now I'm just randomly calling out names. Myra, you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically, I'm picking up this point and trying to find out the coordinates of this guy. When I look at this point, I see that okay, this covers 2 parts here and 1 part here. So the ratio between these 2 parts is 2 is to 1. So if I call this as M1, this is my M2. M1 is 1, M2 is 2. That's okay? Yeah? I've just given a name to these guys, okay? Now, I go back to this formula, which says, this is my M1 is 1, this is my M2 as 2. I know my X1 is 2, X2 is minus 7, my Y1 is minus 2, Y2 is 4. So, if I know this ratio, I'll say, okay, fine. Here, this X1 will be equal to this one, this part. I'll not call it X1, let's call it X for now, so that you guys don't get confused. So, X will be equal to M2, let's say this is my M2, 2 times M2 X1, what is my X1? Is 2, plus M1, which is 1, into M1 into X2, which is minus 7, divided by M1 plus M2. M1 is 1, M2 is 2. What is my X coordinate? 2 into 2, 4, plus 1 into minus 7 is minus 7. So this becomes minus 7. Divided by 1 plus 2 is 3. So this becomes 4 minus 7 is minus 3. Divided by 3, which is minus 1. We found out the X coordinate for this guy. So here, now this is minus 1. We found this. How about Y coordinate? Same thing. We know the same formula. Y of the point which is splitting into M1 into M2 will be equal to M2 into Y1. So M2 is 2 into Y1 is minus 2 plus M1 into Y2. So M1 is 1 into Y2 is 4 divided by M1 plus M2. M1 is 1, M2 is 2. So this becomes 2 into 2 minus 4 plus 1 into 4 is 4 by 2 plus 1 is 3. This became 0 by 3. 0 by 3 is 0. So we got the Y coordinate for this also, which is 0. Who all are getting upset with the teacher right now? Nobody? No, I mean, what I mean by that is, am I making it look confusing or it looks okay? Okay?
Okay.
Summary is this. This formula is there in your back pocket because we have been learning this formula for 2-3 days now. So let's assume that we have learned this formula. when we got this question which says, okay, I have a line AB where the coordinates of A and B are given to us. Find out the coordinates of the trisection, meaning that the 2 points which is splitting this into 3 equal parts. So meaning I have to find out the coordinate of this point and coordinate of this point. Let's pick up one point. If I am picking up this point, if I look at this picture, this is 2 parts and this is 1 part. So this is 2 times this size. So this is, if I call this as 1, this is 2. So I got my M1 and M2 for this formula. And I know this is my X1 and Y1, this is my X2, Y2. Just by looking at this one. So I'll substitute the value of in this equation to find out the value of Y, and that's what we did for finding out the value of X also. So M2 into X1 plus M1 into X2 divided by M1 plus M2. That got us -1 for X, and for Y, M2 into Y1 plus M1 into Y2 divided by M1 plus M2. That is what we got as 0. So we got the coordinates for this guy. Now same thing, if you have to find out the coordinate for this guy, would you do anything different? If you have to find out the coordinate for this point now, third point B, let's say this is X and Y now. How would you do it? Same approach, you will say, okay fine, let me ignore this point for now. Here to here is 2 parts and this is 1 part. So if I call this part as M1, this is 2, and if I call this part as M2, this is equal to 1. Now story has flipped. This line has become bigger, this portion has become smaller, correct? But we'll apply the same formula to get the coordinates for this X and Y as well. Is it clear? Sanvita, Hiranya, Arihan, Tanu, everybody clear? Okay. Gitesh, are you clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at one more problem. Find the ratio in which a y-axis divides the line segment joining this and this. Also find the point of intersection. See. I'm going to the second question now, okay? And this time I'm erasing the formula also, because you have heard this formula so many times from me. You have seen me dancing with this formula enough that you would have memorized by now. Even if you have not memorized, as long as you remember this sign, you'll be fine. Okay, crisscross. We'll come to that. So the second problem that we're going to solve is, find the ratio in which the y-axis divides the segments joining the points 5.5 minus 6 and -1 minus 4. Also find the point of intersection. Okay. So this question sounds little complicated, right? It sounds so unfamiliar to us. Find the ratio in which the y-axis divides the line segment. Oh, so this is my coordinate plane, this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. So it says, find the ratio in which the y-axis divides the line segment joining the points 5 minus 6 and -1 minus 4, and also find the point of intersection. So after reading this question so many times, what we can understand is, okay, so there is a line segment which is probably crossing this guy, and it's asking us to find out the ratio in which this y-axis is splitting. So let's say this was my point A and this was my point B. This is crossing the y-axis, and it's asking us to find out, okay, in what ratio this y-axis is splitting this line. So this is, let's say, M1 and this is M2. We have to find out the value of M1, M2. Okay? And also saying, find out the point of intersection, meaning find out the coordinates of this point. Wherever it is intersecting, find out the coordinate of this point. Deekshita looks very tired and bored also. Is it? No? Okay. No. I mean, math gets boring at times, but to stay awake, take a glass of water, recharge yourself, and then we can resume. It's okay. I mean, we can take a 2-minute break if that is getting on to your, what do you call, increasing your stress level. Okay. Now let's come back to this one. So it says, this question says, there is a line segment that is crossing the y-axis, and it's asking us to find out in what ratio this y-axis is splitting, right? Here it looks like this is like a sword that is cutting the line into 2 parts, correct? The y-axis is my sword, correct? So it's asking us to find out the ratio in which it is splitting this line segment, M1 and M2, and then also find out the point of intersection. See here, if you have to find out the point of intersection, meaning the value on this point, one thing is for sure, anywhere on the y-axis, the x value will be 0. You have to only find out the y part of it, correct? Yeah? Now, there could be 5 different ways to solve it, okay? There could be 5 different ways to solve it. Let's pick up the way that we have learned now. So, the 2 points, their coordinates are what? Let's see. The 2 points, their coordinates are 5 minus 6. So, okay. So, let's identify the points quickly. The points are 5 minus 6. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 6. So, this is minus 6, minus 4, minus 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 2, this is 4, this is 6. So my first point is 5 minus 6. So 5. So x 5 and minus 6. This is 1 point. Second point is minus 1 comma minus 4. So this is minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So second point is minus 1 comma minus 4. So essentially we are talking about this point. If you join these 2 points, see where the y-axis is meeting, this place, right? Now it's asking us to find out if this is M1, no, this is 4 comma minus 6, and this is minus 1 comma minus 4. So we know x1 y1, x2 y2, okay, but we don't know what is the ratio. We don't know if this is M1, this is M2. We don't know what is the value of M1 and M2. That's what we have to find out first. Are you with me so far? So I'm repeating myself. So you have 2 points, 4 minus 6 and minus 1 minus 4. The question says the line segment that is made by joining these 2 points crosses the y-axis, or the y-axis is intercepting this line into a certain ratio. It's asking us to find out what is the value of M1 and M2. In what ratio this is getting split. Okay, that is one thing we have to find out. Second thing is it's saying, okay, also find out the coordinate of the intersecting point. So one thing we know, this is on the y-axis, so x value is 0. We have to only find out the value of y. Okay? Yeah? So now, let's look at it. Let's assume this is M1 by M2. We know that my x coordinate is 0 here on this point, right? That is where it is splitting this line. So let's say x equal to, we know that it's M1 x2 plus M2 x1 divided by M1 plus M2. Okay? And interestingly, we know that my x value is 0 already for this point. Okay? So 0 equal to M1 into x2 plus M2 into x1 by M1 plus M2. When this guy goes to that side, it becomes 0. So I will just ignore this. So what we found out from this one is M1 x2 plus M2 x1 equal to 0. This is one situation we have got. And what is the value of x2? My x2 is this one, minus 1. oops, Ix2 is minus 1. What is my x1? It is 4. I will write it by 4. So it becomes m2 into 4 equal to minus m1 x2. Okay, this is m1. Why am I writing this is m2? m1 x2 plus m2 x1. So from this one we got that m2 into 4 equal minus m1 equal to 0, or m1 equal to m2 into 4. We got this value. So now m1 is to m2. This comes down equals 4. So we got that this is dividing this into this ratio. Yes, Arihan. m1 by m2 is 4, meaning this by this is equal to 4. Yeah, Arihan, you had a question. Now? Somebody raised hand. Let me repeat. What did I do? We know that we have these 2 points. These coordinates are 4 comma minus 6 and this coordinate is minus 1 comma minus 4. That is what is given in the question. So when I join these two, we see that it is passing the y-axis at this point. The question is, find out the ratio in which this is getting divided, meaning what is value of m1 by m2. That's what we have to find out. Yeah, Dikshita.
Sir, I think the question you said, I think it's going to be 5 comma negative 6.
5 comma negative 6 for what?
For the
This one?
next 2 yeah, that one.
Was it 5 comma 6? Let me see if I read it correctly. Oh, 5 comma minus 6. Okay. My bad. Okay. So these are the 2 points we have. Now we are trying to find out what is the ratio in which this is getting divided, m1 by m2. But one thing we know, if we are talking about y-axis, that means any point on the y-axis, the x value will be equal to 0. Now, and this is the coordinate of the point that is splitting this line, right? So if you look at the section formula, what does it say? X equals to m1 x2 plus m2 x1 divided by m1 plus m2. I just wrote the formula and we know the value of x is 0 already. We already know this one. So 0 equals to m1 plus x2 plus m2 plus x1 divided by m1 plus m2, and again this will go up and get multiplied with 0, which has no value to it. So that means m1 x2 plus m2 x1 will be equal to 0. Now we went to look at the value x2. What is my x2 value? x2 is minus 1. So I have put that value m1 into x2 plus m2 x1. m2 x1. x1 is 5. So I'll write 5. So then I'm simplifying it. m2 into 5 plus m1 into minus 1 becomes minus m1. So m2 into 5, this goes to the other side, becomes plus m1. So m1 by m2 if you bring m2 down here, m1 is equal to m2 into 5. So if you bring m2 down here, so m1 by m2 equal to only 5 remains this side, that becomes 5. So you figured out that when you join these 2 points, the y-axis intersects this into m1 by m2 ratio. So this is 5 times of this size. You found that out. I see a lot of confused faces. I mean, I can see only Gitesh's face right now, but he looks little worried. Are you okay, Gitesh? Dikshita, are you okay? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
You're a little confused. So, okay. How much time do we have? We still have 10 more minutes. Let me do it from scratch. Because you would have seen when the laptop doesn't work, what do? You restart. And restart refreshes everything and starts working. Right? So, memorize I remember only one formula, that is my most hated formula called tran. Yeah? The most hated formula called tran. Okay? So, you have to read. I'm reading the question. The question says there are 2 points A and B. Point A is 5 comma minus 6 and point B is minus 1 comma minus 4. Correct, Dikshita? Was that the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, see, I read it so many times that I memorized the coordinates of these 2 points also. So, the question says there are 2 points A and B with these coordinates. When you join them, it is crossing the y-axis. Our question says y-axis intercepts this line that is made by joining these 2 points. Okay, the y-axis is intercepting the line which is made by joining these 2 points in a certain ratio. Find out what is that ratio. That is the question. And then it says, once you know what is the ratio, tell me what is the coordinate of that point where it is meeting the y-axis. So now this was the theory part of it which you heard so many times. Now come to the visual part of it. So this is my coordinate plane. This says A is 5 minus 6. So my x value is positive, y value is negative. So essentially we are talking about this quadrant, quadrant 4. So let's say this is A, which is 5 comma minus 6. X value is positive, y value is negative. Yeah? Hiranya, Sanvita, everybody with me? Lakshita also? Alright. So this is one point. Second point is minus 1 comma minus 4. That happens only in the third quadrant where x is minus 1 and y is minus 4. So let's join these 2 points. This is B, which is minus 1 comma minus 4. Okay? So when you join these 2 lines, you clearly see that this is crossing the y-axis. Yeah? Or y-axis is intersecting it. Yeah? That you can see visually, right? I did not do anything. I have just drawn it and I corrected them. Correct? Yeah? So if you have to blame anybody, you blame the person who has written the question. Your teacher is still doing an okay job. Okay? So far okay?
Yeah.
Now this is the point where this line is meeting the y-axis. And that is why the y-axis is being blamed for intersecting or splitting this line. Okay? Now it is splitting in certain way. Maybe this is bigger, this is smaller, or this one is 3 times bigger than this one. Whatever it be the case. Okay? So it says find out the ratio in which it is getting split. What is the relationship between M1 and M2? That's what we have been asked to find. Yeah? Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Now, that is what we have to find out. One thing we can see that whenever any point on this y-axis, what will be the value of x? Any point. 0. Yes, Anvita.
I was gonna answer the question.
Any point on the x-axis, what is the value of y? If I pick any point on the x-axis, what is the value of y on that point? Yes, Anita, go ahead.
0.
Dikshita, do you think the same?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, we have an agreement. We have a consensus from everybody that if I am picking up any point on the y-axis, the x value will be 0. Yeah? If I am picking any point on the x-axis, the y value will be 0. That is agreeable. That means this point, if I have to find out the coordinate, one coordinate I know by default, that my x coordinate will be 0. Only y coordinate we don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah? Up to this much okay?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Now, since we know that x coordinate value is 0, let's put that in our coordinate, this section formula which says x equals m1 x2 plus m2 x1 by m1 plus m2. This says any point that is splitting the line into two parts, m1 is to m2, the x value will be m1 times x2 plus m2 times x1 divided by m1 plus m2. That's what my section formula says. And here, interestingly, I know my x value is already 0. So 0 equals to m1 x2. What is my x2 here? This is m1, this is x2. x2 is minus 1 plus m2. We don't know m2, I'll keep it as m2. m2 x1 is 5. Yeah, Dikshita.
Isn't y supposed to be 4?
We'll find it out. I've not come to that point yet. I'm still solving for x. No, this is not 4. I'm saying y. I've not found it out. I wrote that is, you can blame my writing skills, but this is not 4. Okay? So here I'm still grappling with the first formula, okay? X equal to m1 x2 plus m2 x1 by m1 plus m2. That is what my section formula says, which I look at visually. It says x coordinate of this value will be equal to m1 x2 plus m2 x1 by m1 plus m2. So here m1 is not known. We know x2 is minus 1. We have put the value. Plus m2. m2 is this one, not known. But x1 is 5. We put this value. By m1 plus m2. Both are not known. Let it be. Now, this guy has to go upstairs. Get multiplied with 0. That becomes 0. 0 equal to m1 into minus 1. So that becomes minus m1 plus m2 into 5. So if I make this guy travel across the border, this becomes m1 equal to m2 into 5 or m1 by m2. Here it is multiplication, becomes division, will be equal to 5. So we found the ratio. m1 by m2 equal to 5. So my ratio is m1 is to m2 equal to 5. So this is 5 and this is 1. Is this clear now, Gitesh?
Yeah.
Okay. So we found the ratio.
So, wait, I have a question. So m1 divided by m2 equals to 5. So why is m1 5 and m2?
So this, see, m1 m2 is only the ratio, right?
Oh, okay.
So this section formula says this is the ratio in which it is divided. The nearest place that I can find out, if I have 1:5 as ratio, if I give this guy 1, I will give this guy 5. If I give this guy 2, I will give this guy 10. So I picked up a smaller number, that's why. Okay?
Okay.
So, and again, they will say what is the ratio? You will say m1 is to m2. That is 5. That will remain 5. That was the question also. Correct? Now it's saying find out what is the value of y. Okay? Meaning this point's coordinates. You know the x coordinate. How will you find out the y coordinate here? How? Any guess? See, after 3 hours of class, my hands are dirty. So, everybody has to get their hands dirty. And that is what I am actually hinting at. Meaning, now, see, don't have to worry about or think too much, right? You say, okay, fine. I have to find out why. I have a formula already in place. Yeah, Ritesh.
I think you do like you plug in the formula like y equals
So,
m1.
I will not take that discussion in air. I would want you guys to do it on a piece of paper. That's what I'm doing right now because we have only, it's already time. Okay. So here we know the formula says y equal to m2 x1, m2 y1 plus m1 y2 divided by m1 plus m2. Now here if you look at this formula, what did you find? m1 equal to 5 times m2. Correct? This is what we found. Let's put everything in one way. So here, everywhere I have m1, I will write it as 5 times m2. Let's do that. Let's see what happens. m2 will write as m2, and y1 is minus 6, plus M1, wherever I have M1, I will write this as 5 times M2 into Y2. What is Y2? Y2 is minus 4 by M1 plus M2. My M1 will become 5M2 plus M2. So I got M2, 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 all M2s, right? So this becomes minus 6M2 plus 5 into 4, which becomes minus 20 here, minus 20 M2 divided by 5M2 plus M2, that is 6M2. So this is minus 6M2, so M2 is banana. So minus 6 banana, minus 20 banana, this gives you minus 26 bananas. And here you have 6 bananas below. This and this you can do tic-tac-toe. What you have? Minus 26 by 6. That translates to minus 6 4s are 24.33. 0.33. Minus 4.33. So I did not do anything fancy here. First thing was, see, look at this. I knew the value of x equal to 0 because it's intersecting the y-axis. So I substituted that value, found the ratio. As soon as we found the ratio, we found a relationship between M1 and M2. And that helped us simplify this one. Okay? I converted it into one value. So now, with this, we got the y coordinate is minus 4.33. Done this. Yeah? So, even if I made it look complicated, there is a rescue. And that rescue is your video. Just watch it. Try doing it by yourself. Whenever you get stuck, stop it. Stop doing it. Start the video and see what I'm doing. Get some message from that, then pause it and then try doing it one more time. And if that doesn't help, come back to me. Okay? So, one thing I must acknowledge, this was one of the difficult or the most difficult topic that I picked up for you guys. Everything else that we are going to do will be much more easier than this. Okay? This was one of the most difficult topic, but it will be difficult only if you don't visualize things or if you don't practice things. This is more about substituting values and then doing it. If you are struggling, don't worry, it's not going to hurt. We'll just do a few problems, then it becomes cakewalk. Okay? Because if I can recall it after 35 years, you guys are anyways fresh and much more energetic than me. Okay? You will be able to catch up. Not a problem.